you just saw him there with Emmanuel Stewart in the Prince's Corner on March 3. Meanwhile, still to come tonight, our main event on Boxing After Dark pits Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, looking for a 12th straight successful defense of his middleweight championship against number 1 contender Antonie Echols. That'll be coming up in just a few minutes. Chilly weekend in Las Vegas. The plane flights from Southern California and Puerto Rico are totally booked up as the boxing public crowds in looking for their seats and their chance to get into the Mandalay Bay tomorrow night to see Trinidad and Vargas and a pretty doggone good undercard. One man who will watch with tremendous interest is 160-pound world champion Bernard Hopkins, who gets ready now to seek a 12th consecutive successful title defense of the middleweight crown. The record is 14, held by Carlos Monzon, and that's just one of Hopkins' many targets as he continues his brilliant career. He hasn't lost a fight since he lost to Roy Jones May 22, 1993. And in the 7 years since, Larry, Bernard Hopkins has been boxing's most outspoken and most energetic ring politician, railing constantly at what he sees as the virtual conspiracy of promoters and managers who he says have denied him his just due in the sport. He's used that anger to fuel his ring performances. Can he still do that?
Hell hath no fury like this champion scorned.
Indeed.
He's still angry. In fact, he told us that he's so filled with poison that if a snake bit him, the snake would die. That poison comes from his dealings, he feels, with promoters who have some way ripped him off or not used him in the right way. For example, right now he has to fight a second mandatory challenge against a very tough challenger in Echols. When I asked him, how did this happen? How did this guy come up again? He just looked me in the eye and, as straightforward as anything, said, corruption. They're trying to get me out of the way. He uses that anger in a positive way, and that's why, even at 35 going on 36, he's still as effective as he is.
And you have to assume that his motivation will be high this weekend because of the fight that's taken place down the street and how he sees himself figuring into that picture. But Emmanuel Stewart, a year ago, Antonie Echols gave Bernard Hopkins a spirited challenge, actually decked him in the first round with what was ruled an illegal blow, not counted as an official knockdown. And Echols believes that his brawling style and his strength will give him a chance here tonight. But is his best chance the hope that at nearly age 36, Hopkins might be slowing down?
I don't think Hopkins' age is going to be a factor. Hopkins, much like Barrera, is one of those fighters who didn't have a long amateur career, and he's learning to fight. He's getting better with each fight. And that's interesting to see a fighter who's fought Roy Jones maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and he's improved so much since then. And I think in Echols' case, I think he's going to fight a much better fight because for this fight, he trained and got proper sparring. And, you know, coming from Davenport, Iowa, there's no good sparring up there. The fact that Michael Nunn became successful from Iowa, but he did train in Iowa, at that time his career was taken over by the Gooses, and he was training out of California. But Echols has said he's trained properly, he's had good sparring for this fight, so he's going to be better. But still, at this point in time, Bernard Hopkins is becoming a very good fighter, and it's going to be very difficult for anyone to beat him, I think, in the middleweight division.
Yeah, there's a difference in craft here. It's a little like the difference between Davenport, Iowa, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape for Hopkins from Philly against Echols from Davenport, and you see the 8-year age advantage for Echols. Hopkins is a tall middleweight at 6 feet, but Echols has long arms and therefore a 2-inch reach advantage. Echols weighed in right on the middleweight limit of 160. Hopkins, who thinks he may someday have to fight a big fight at 154, weighed in 1.5 pounds under the limit at 158.5. Tonight, however, Hopkins unofficially outweighs Echols by 3 pounds as they approach the ring. Rules at about with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Bernard Hopkins-Antoine Echols fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and he cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
Coincidence. Tomorrow night, a single father from Nashville, Tennessee named Jonathan Reed a very nice, well-spoken young man who's raising 2 daughters by himself, will enter the ring against a middleweight titleist named William Jaffe down the street on the undercard of Trinidad Vargas. Here also is a single father who is raising 2 children on his own as he pursues his boxing career, and that, of course, is at the heart of his motivation as he still tries to make it big in boxing. All those belts in the background following Echols into the ring here at the new Venetian Hotel. None of them are world championship belts, but as Larry Merchant pointed out, he was the number 1 contender a year ago, and though having lost to Hopkins, he's the number 1 contender again. And a closer look at Antonie Echols.
Again, this is his second mandatory in a year. He fired his trainer, Joe Goosen, just 3 weeks ago because he felt he wasn't getting the proper sparring or the proper work. And he is a big puncher, calls himself Kid Dynamite.
One of those guys who's been motivated throughout his career by what he saw as an unjust loss in the amateurs. He was beaten in the 1992 Olympic trials by Raul Marquez, who was ranked number 1 in the country in the weight class. But Echols reportedly in the fight had Marquez in trouble when a bell was sounded at the wrong time. Then there was a 2-minute delay to try to figure out what had happened. And to this day, Echols said that inappropriate bell and the 2-minute delay saved Marquez and kept him from going to Barcelona. And now here comes the executioner. The man in the black hood in the middle is Philly's own Bernard Hopkins.
And Jim, at a press conference earlier this week, he delivered what he called the last meal to Antoine Echols. Cheese sandwich and some French fries before this execution, he hopes.
I guess in the best of Las Vegas traditions, he probably ordered that sandwich and fries up from room service at about 3 a.m., right?
Really is a remarkable character, Jim. Even promoters who he has dissed have started to show respect for him because he's made such a fuss over being overlooked that he's starting to be looked at in a very favorable light now. He's brought that to himself. He's turned a negative into a positive.
He's become such a statesman. He's such an intelligent guy. He's so likable that we haven't even mentioned the 4 years he spent in prison doing hard time because it's hard to see it as a factor in his life anymore. He's come so far from that. He's an entirely different person. Probably the second most voluminous talker in the sport behind the incomparable Kevin Kelly.
He said that they put him together with Kelly and Kelly just blew him away.
A rare Hopkins loss. Here's a closer look at the executioner.
What he says is that without him, the hotbed of boxing of Philadelphia would be dead. His goal now, 15 successful defenses of the middleweight title, never been done before, although Carlos Monzon did it when it was an undisputed championship. And he says when he achieves that, he'll be able to sell all the tapes and gloves that he now gives away for free.
They're ready, we're ready. Let's go to Mark Barrow for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Palulos, Banner Promotions in association with the Venetian Resort Hotel Casino and Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated king of beers, this Bud's for you, presents the HBO Boxing After Dark main event of the evening, 12 rounds for the IBF Middleweight Championship of the World. Your judges at ringside are Moretti. Your referee for this event, also from fabulous Las Vegas, Tony Weeks. Introducing now the principals first in the blue corner to my left, wearing the gold trunks with the black trim. He weighs in at 160 pounds. His professional record reads 24 victories, 3 defeats, 1 draw, and 23 wins coming by way of knockout. He hails from Davenport, Iowa, the USBA and NABF middleweight champion and the challenger, Antonie Dynamite Echols. His opponent in the red corner, wearing the black trunks with the silver trim, he weighs in at 158 1/2 pounds. His professional record reads 37 victories, 2 defeats, 1 draw, and 27 wins coming by way of knockout. He hails from Philadelphia, PA, the IBF middleweight champion of the world, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins. 12 rounds for the IBF middleweight championship of the world.
It's the one chief second. Only one chief. Come on, Bernard. One chief. Okay. Right here is good, right here is good. Anything below that is a low blow. All right, you already received your instructions in your dressing room. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Above all, protect yourselves at all times. Any questions from the champion's corner? Any questions from the challenger's corner? Let's go.
The question we have is Echols a year better or just a year older? Since he gave a pretty good challenge to Bernard Hopkins.
Hopkins thinks he knows the answer. We're about to find out. In Bernard Hopkins' tour of duty as the middleweight champion, this is the 3rd time that he has fought a rematch against one of his challengers. In both previous instances against Segundo Mercado and Robert Allen, Hopkins won the rematch more easily than he won the first fight.
Yes, because he's improving. It's very, very balanced out fight.
And he's a thinking man's fighter, Emmanuel.
Yeah, he's becoming a complete prize fighter. It fights a lot different than the typical old stereotype Philadelphia middleweights, which is primarily punchers. He's become a very good boxer in addition to becoming always was a good puncher.
Hopkins likes to point out that he's the only Philadelphia-born fighter to have won the middleweight championship. And there have been some great middleweights out of Philadelphia, but as Bernard points out, Joe Giardello was born in Brooklyn. So therefore, he's the only Philly-born one to win the middleweight title. Bernard pays attention to detail.
Yes, he does.
Joey Giardello was a Philadelphia fighter.
No question. Well, Echols promised a high work rate. He said that he would be able to throw about 90 punches around. He hasn't gotten off at anywhere near that rate in the first minute.
Echols is fighting a much more defensive fight, this fight, as compared to the first fight. And it's strange that Hopkins is the aggressive fighter.
Well, he's trying to pace himself because in the second half of that fight, Hopkins just rolled over him and threw him.
In the first round of their first fight, Echols was able to surprise Hopkins, hitting him as the referee broke the two of them, and he decked him. The referee said it was not a legal punch. It didn't count as a knockdown, but Hopkins was rocked. Then, as Emmanuel Stewart pointed out, and as Larry confirmed, it was Hopkins who took over in the middle rounds of the fight and dominated the latter half.
Tony Weeks or Jeff?
You want you both in the locker room. Cut the bullshit out. Both of you. Cut the bullshit out. Step back. Stop.
That's one of the official rules of boxing. Cut the bullshit. Yeah, but you know, sometimes in the heat of battle, when you got high, strong athletes, sometimes that happens. And I think that I don't think anyone did anything purposely in that situation. It just happened. And I think the referee made a good call. He just warned both of them without taking a corner.
Lands the right hand across the top. The back knuckles back up. Now Echols against the roll, and Hopkins more accurate. Bangs him into the ropes with a chopping right hand inside. And they're still swinging after the bell. All right.
I got it. Okay, you got me? Jab, jab, right hand. Keep control now. Extend your arm. He's scared. He's scared, but cut him off. Cut him off. Simmer down. Relax. Relax. Jab, jab, right hand. Okay? Jab, jab, right hand over top of his left. His jab, his left hand is low. Step back. Bam.
Let's see what happened when they got into this tussle. Now that's pretty nifty from Davenport, Iowa. He complained to the referee while the referee was moving in. He took a shot at Hopkins, and Hopkins, like a Philadelphia fighter, took a shot right back at him.
Echols said Davenport has some tough streets. We go along the Mississippi River and a beautiful little minor league ballpark right by the river.
I think Echols is trying to step it up a little bit now. He realizes he's giving too much respect to Hopkins. But Hopkins, even though he's a little bit taller, he has this tendency sometimes to kind of lean in, bending over to the right, as if he's going into a clinch, and then to throw an effective punch.
Quick right hand lead lands for Hopkins there. Hopkins' last title defense on HBO, last May in Indianapolis against a Canadian challenger named Sid Vanderpool, was a messy, foul-filled affair. And this one promises for the same. A punch to the back of the head. Echols goes down. I don't think he hit him that hard.
It didn't seem like he hit him that hard to me. But nevertheless, it could have been a punch that he didn't see, as he was relaxed. He thought it was in the clinch.
That was a definite foul, however, and I'm just wondering what the consequences could be here. Harold Letterman, what could happen here?
Okay, Larry, there's no question it was a foul. At the very least, you should take 1 point and give the guy 5 minutes to recover from this. I wouldn't call it an intentional foul because it was in the heat of battle, but it certainly was a foul.
Here we go. Time in.
I mean, I would give him 5 minutes.
Or, I think, did he take a point?
He didn't take a point, and he didn't ask the guy if he wants to continue. He just said 5 minutes. I would have said to the guy, you want 5 minutes to go.
And I think maybe the reason for that is what happened earlier in the first round, since they were both hitting after the bell, that the referee acted as though that was just a continuation of it.
Or I think he might have thought that Echols turned his back on the punch, that Echols turned away as Hopkins was firing, and therefore put himself in position to get hit in the back of the head.
If it ends up getting into a brawl, I'm quite sure that Hopkins is going to have the advantage of that coming from Philadelphia.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a messy brawl, and this referee, Tony Weeks, has taken a lot of flack from boxing insiders in the last week for what was perceived as sloppy handling of David Reed's win over Sereno Garcia here a week ago.
He's in a rough situation tonight.
So Weeks has a chance to bounce back if he can do a good job with this, or let himself in for more criticism if he has a tough time with what looks as though it's going to be an awkward battle. Hopkins lands the right hand. Another right hand lands for Hopkins. The
Marshall Hopkins is seemingly gambling on his primary, getting that sneaky right hand over Echols' shoulder as he leans in close to him as if he's going to a clinch, and then instead shoots a right hand.
More and more, it looks as though the fight will favor the man who can come up with unorthodox but effective offense.
Yes.
Bernard Hopkins' great experience would stand him in good stead.
And able to fight from different angles.
Hey, keep holding. Sit down, sit down. I want you to keep doing it. Jab in the right hand. Underneath, get dirty with this one. Okay? Okay?
Wake up, baby.
Jab it. Jab, right hand.
Beautiful job, baby.
Oh. Jab, right hand, and left hook.
You pick him off, sir. You pick him off. Now you're getting that left hand to work right. Do what you know how to do best.
That's right now. Just stand there.
Stay in the center of the ring, baby.
Let's take a look and see that rabbit punch and whether it was because of a, well, clearly a foul. This was not a case of Bernard Hopkins or Echols turning away from him in mid-punch.
Yep, you're right. Then he couldn't stand it. That was clear on the replay. Well, the first two rounds were a mess. Hopkins so far has thrown more and landed more than Echols.
But you have two punches against here, which means this fight's going to be exciting until it ends. It's not going to be any moment that either one of these guys can relax.
Right hand lands for Echols.
As the fight progresses on, I think it's going to be much more similar to the first fight, where the vast experience of Hopkins is going to be a much bigger dominating factor.
There's that sneaky right hand you talked about, Emmanuel.
He's going to continue to keep shooting this sharp right hand over the shoulder. He's barely missing, but as Echols gets tired and his judgment falls off, you're going to find him connected with the right hand more often.
Good quick left by Hopkins, and he makes Echols miss.
This is a fight that no one can make a mistake in, whether it's in a clinch or whether it's at long range. Both guys are punching accurate punches, a lot of power, but as the fight goes on, I can see more and more that Hopkins is going to take a wider and wider advantage going down the stretch. I don't think that Echols has had the amount of experience, whereas once he gets tired, that he can fight off of his experience. Whereas Hopkins will do things extensively, I think, after he gets tired, simply because of having had so many professional fights.
Hopkins with 40 fights. Yeah, 40 fights, most of them at the championship level.
Yes.
What kind of fighter would Echols be if he had come to the Conk gym when he was 17 or 18?
Well, he'd have to have been a much better fighter. Listen, what he's accomplished, coming from Iowa, I think, is basically a lot because of natural talent and those amateur tournaments. And they kept him up in the Olympic camp up there training, so he got a chance to get good training. But once he goes back to Iowa, there's nothing for him to spar with that was going to keep his tools sharp, so to say.
Tony left down toward Iowa, moved to Southern California, trained with Joe Goosen.
Michael Nunn.
Michael Nunn, excuse me. Eventually Nunn lost his middleweight title and was knocked out by James Storm.
That's right, but he finally went back to Iowa.
Both Nunn and Tony still fighting, incidentally.
Yes.
Echols is constantly turning his back into Hopkins.
He's inexperienced.
Inexperience. It's an amateur move. Echols has a skirt over his trunk.
I believe it was Hector Camacho who first developed the skirt as a viable boxing garment. Harold, how do you have it so far?
Okay, Jim, I got a 29-28, 2 rounds to 1. Bernard Hopkins. He usually win the first 2 rounds with a lot of clean punches. Then he just gave the third round away. He didn't punch. Echols just came out and jib. Bernard waited. I don't know what he was doing in the third round. And I got to tell you something, Jim. I don't want to belabor deliver a point. But a rabbit punch could really be fatal. You can't hit a guy in the brainstem, in the back of the head, the lower part of the brain or the upper part of the neck. It's absolutely very, very dangerous.
It wasn't that hard a punch, but yes, it is dangerous to land one at that location. There was a terrific straight right hand by Hopkins.
The right hands are starting to find the range now.
Yep, that right hand was right on the money.
And at this stage here, Hopkins seems to be a little bit more mentally alert and refreshed than Echols.
Echols beginning to wing shots. Hopkins will find some openings up the middle as he does.
Yes, he's going to take advantage of a lot of the mistakes that Echols is making. You see Hopkins starting to capitalize on him now. At this stage, the referee seriously will have to look at possibly taking some punches. Particularly after the guy spins the guy completely around. I mean, you had time to realize that you have an advantage over the man, so there's no need to keep continually landing punches like that.
Well, you don't want to see the man be hit by rabbit punches, but still, he should have to suffer some consequences for acting in an amateur fashion.
Right hand as Echols gets himself out of position with what Larry accurately called amateurish ring generalship. So Hopkins has landed 2 devastating punches in this round.
At this stage, Hopkins feels he has complete control over the fight. Even though Echols is still very dangerous, he feels himself that it's just a matter of time.
Stop punches, stop punches. But in some ways, if a guy is strong, and Echols is, the more awkward he is, the more dangerous he can be.
That's very correct. But I think the biggest danger that Hopkins has is possibly putting himself in a position to get disqualified.
Although since Tony Weeks hasn't penalized him yet, you figure he's a distance away from that.
That's right. If he continues to keep hitting him as soon as he gets him to turn around, sooner or later the referee's going to start taking a point. And if Echols goes down, he may end up having to disqualify him.
Okay, you with me? Be with me, sir. Be with me. Be with me, sir. Be with me. Okay, I don't want one punch. I want combination of punches, son. Don't worry about one shot. Run them shots inside. Run them in there.
Round 5. I love round 5.
One of your favorites, huh? I'll tell you what, round 6 won't be bad either.
Suck it up. You understand? And you see the man is showing you the right hand. Don't pull back from it.
Antoine, if he gets you on the rope like that,
pull
the
inside,
referee ain't calling no points, okay? You hit him in the back of the head too, okay? You gotta get...
Bernard Hopkins throws that right hand from every place in the ring.
Stay in your corner, Bernard. Stay in your corner. Stay in your corner.
Echols paid for turning 90 degrees away from him, right into the punch.
And by CompuBox numbers, Hopkins landed 54% of his power shots in that last round. Emmanuel, you talked about the possibility of Hopkins, who's in control of the fight, getting himself into a position where he could be disqualified. Last fall in Detroit, when your man Prince Nassim Hamed body slammed Cesar Soto, was your heart in your throat?
Yes, because it was very obvious and flagrant. But the only thing that helped in that case was the fact that Soto was buttoning continuous. And the referee took the whole round away from Ahmed and said, you're going to take points away, to take points from both of them. But it was just so flagrant, and that's what made it look so bad. But in this case here, both of these guys are big punchers, and they both like to throw the right hand, but both guys are pretty good at countering when you miss with the right hand, particularly Hopkins. So if you throw your right hand at Hopkins, you're taking a big risk of getting countered with the right hand also.
Hopkins is making a pretty impressive case for his ability to show skills even amid an extremely awkward fight.
He's showing a lot of experience. See, that's what I'm saying. After threw a right hand and got countered with a right uppercut at the same time.
And again, Echols gets himself out of position and Hopkins lands a little right hand. Not a powerful punch, but it connects. Well, this is not pretty. Maybe Felix Trinidad will be a prettier fight.
Yeah, at this point in the stage right here, it's a still exciting fight, but you can see the experience level, the championship rounds is beginning to show more for Hopkins. And it's just a matter of time, I think, eventually, unless he gets got with one punch, that he'll eventually be able to knock out Echols. And once again, it's a counter punch again. Eventually, Echols is going to be gun shy of throwing his right hand, because every time he's throwing it at this point in time, he's getting countered with right hand.
Partially that's because Echols lunges when he punches.
He lunges, he loses his balance on his right hand, and Hopkins is from the old school. He's rolling his shoulders a lot to make him lose his balance even more by letting him miss completely, and then he counter punches with a counter right hand.
Recent Ring magazine listed of the 20 greatest middleweights of all time, they listed Hopkins 16th.
If you can dump that shot up inside from your home free.
Real easy.
All right?
Yeah. Real easy with it. Look at it. Now you're left. Now adversity came.
Stop the leg. Stop the leg. Stop the leg.
He's been using his left hand so much, suddenly the right comes in there, and it's followed by the left.
Well, it started with a left hook that I think Echols had just finished an exchange.
And Echols was hurt, and Hopkins had the sense to jump on him.
Yes, he did. Experience.
In round 7, time. Over there. And perhaps fighting with a compromised right shoulder, Hopkins landed 25 of 39 punches, including 22 out of 25 power shots. Now there's a delay as they get rid of a wet spot in Echols' corner. And incidentally, Harold Lutterman is right. There is a second in Echols' corner. He told Antoine to foul after the second round.
I missed that.
They told him to hit him in the cup.
And in reference to previous fouls, he said you're doing a beautiful job.
I'm sorry I missed that. I've never heard anything quite like that.
Hard right hand by Hopkins, wobbles Echols again. Bernard Hopkins is looking for a very satisfying knockout in this fight. Here we go. Big right hand by Hopkins coming up from the bottom. Echols' balance is bad enough to begin with. When he gets wobbly, it looks like he's going down all the time.
He takes a good punch, evidently.
Got a good feel.
And he's still dangerous himself. The only thing that's still, to me, my biggest concern is someone still may do something to get disqualified.
Just keep coming.
That's probably the most discouraging thing that's happened to Echols in the fight, to finally get a right hand in. And the next thing that happens, he gets hit by a right hand.
Both guys are still punching with tremendous firepower this late in the fight, especially at the pace of them. It's a little bit unusual. And both guys are dangerous.
Those guys are strong. Those guys are pretty well conditioned. And they don't like each other with the game.
They don't like each other.
Stop punching. I got you. Stop punching.
fight like a champion. Here we go, time in, let's go.
Well, if Tony Weeks thought he had a challenge a week ago handling David Lee's battle with Karina Garcia and a lot of low blows, he had no idea what he was in store for tonight. This has been tough. Meanwhile, Hopkins was penalized in the last round, losing a point for holding and hitting.
And now
there's a delay.
Well, there's a delay because the corner of Echols, which is as awkward as Echols is, just kicked over a bucket of ice. I don't know who had advised him to foul Hopkins early in the fight. He ought to be fined. This is big-time professional boxing, and I'm just afraid that these guys aren't up to the task, although Echols is certainly a dangerous fighter.
Yeah, here we go. Time in.
Both of these guys are so emotionally charged up into this fight, they don't need any encouragement towards doing anything illegal.
Now, what does a fighter think when he comes back to the corner after 8 rounds of this, and his trainer says, you're in control of the fight?
You know, I hope that the fighter is fully aware of the fact that he's not telling him the truth.
I mean, how do you believe anything the trainer's going to say if he can't tell you the truth in the middle of a fight?
Always tell your fighter the truth. Always. A lot of these guys are really just cheerleaders. That's what they are. And not only that, he doesn't tell them anything specifically to do, except maybe to hit him in the cup.
Hopkins very close to another rabbit punch. But he missed. Weeks pulls them apart. There's a pattern that has existed throughout the fight. Echols tries looping right hands. Hopkins counters them with straight right hands.
Counters them with a counter right hand. But I think both guys have surprised with their ability to take a punch.
Stop. Action.
Stop pushing. Here we go.
Pulling, man! Pulling!
Stop punching, stop. I got you.
Pulling, man! Pulling right there!
Once again warning Hopkins about holding and hitting. Bernard's already lost a point. So conceivably, 2 more instances of holding and hitting could cost him his title.
It's possible. The fact that he lost the point, he won the round, I believe, anyway, so that just meant that the round was a ball round.
Big right hand by Hopkins landed. Echols trying to come back to the body.
Stop punching, I got you.
You better be in condition if you're going to go in against Antonie Echols. He will test you in every way.
Yes, it is. And I'll tell you what, after this fight here, the last thing that Hopkins wants to look up and find is that Echols is his mandatory again next year. That's for sure.
Corruption.
Yes, they would never have an easy fight between the two of them.
Bernard smiling as he goes to his corner.
Get your mind on your job. Keep your mind on your job, all right?
How could it only be round 10?
I want to see
Feels
you
like about 30 rounds.
Train the box. Don't be trying to pop him out there with one shot. You're the best out there.
This is round 10.
I like round 10. I really do. It's a famous and legendary round. Remember round 10 of Bo Holyfield won in 1992? This round 10 should be every bit that good, based on what we just saw there.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Underneath and over. Okay, when he grab that hand and break away with the other hand, you got to dog him. You got to dog him, baby. You got to dog him. You understand? Go, you got to dog him.
They're not giving Echols any specific instructions. It's always to dog him, to hit him below the belt. You're doing great, baby. He's scared of you.
Well, and he fired Joe Goosen 3 weeks ago because he felt abandoned by Goosen when Joe brought Ben Tacky here for his fight on the undercard of Louis Tua. So he's with the men he's been with for a long time out of Davenport. Hey, Harold, how do you have it so far?
Okay, Jim, in round 8, when Bernard Hopkins lost the point for holding behind the head, that became a 9-9 round because I thought Bernard Hopkins won the round, so he lost the point. So, 7-1, 1 even, 88-79, Bernard Hopkins.
And look out, Echols is about to land at our lap. Now he goes to the other side.
Kid Dynamite is getting blown up.
This is a definitely exciting and dramatic
Anybody can do what it is. Let's see if Bernard deducts a point from the referee.
This is a rough, tough prize fight. It ain't pretty, but it's serious.
Echols is trying the same move that Hopkins has been using on him all night now.
John L. Sullivan and Jake Kilrain fought the last bare-knuckle prize fight in this country in 1888.
I don't think he wants to fight anymore. The referee did the exact right thing. He stopped fighting. He was looking for help from the referee, and Bernard Hopkins jumped him.
So Hopkins, with a display of courage, assertiveness, or foolhardiness, take your pick, fights through what could have been a disqualification in his favor, and winds up making it pay off.
But I tell you what, Antoine Echols is one tough guy, and I have a lot of respect for him tonight. In fact, he was not knocked out still. He called it was dangerous all the way up to the end of the fight. He's given his experience in championship fights by fighting Hopkins, and if they fight one more time, it would probably be the same identical fight, and probably in each fight, Echols is going to improve some.
If I'm Hopkins and they tell me I have to fight Echols again, I'm retired. All right? Enough. What else do I have to prove? That, incidentally, is the 12th consecutive successful middleweight championship defense for Hopkins, which ties him with Marvin Hagler 2 away from the record held by Carlos Monzon. Larry, here's another look at what happened at the end.
Yeah, Echols looked like he was looking for help from the referee, and I just think he was dazed, he was confused.
See, now,
he wasn't protecting himself.
but the referee could have taken advantage of the first blow that landed and actually took points away.
But there was no reason for it. He hadn't granted him timeout.
Yeah, there was no timeout, no stoppage of any kind. Maybe Echols didn't know that, but it didn't look like a foul of any kind to me.
No, I think Echols was looking for a way out. He was spending more time talking to the referee than he was fighting at this point in time.
All right, let's go to Mark Barrow for the official particulars on a wild and woolly fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 1 minute, 42 seconds of the 10th round. The referee stops the contest. The winner by technical knockout and still IBF middleweight champion of the world, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins.
So Hopkins gets another middleweight championship defense, and now we'll go down the street to Mandalay Bay tomorrow night, and we'll go to the winners' news conference after Trinidad Vargas and try to call out whoever won the fight. Final punch stat numbers, and you can see that Hopkins landed 107 more blows than did Echols. He threw 70 more punches. He landed at a much higher connect percentage. And the gaps will be likewise in Hopkins' favor in the power punch categories. 167 out of 361 to 78 out of 233. Judges' scorecards at the time of the stoppage, Hopkins was leading 89-78, 89-78, 89-78. What chance was there that in a fight that wild with all those fouls, all three judges would have the same score, Emmanuel?
But you know what? Even though the fight was exciting and to some degree one-sided. It was a dangerous fight all the time for Hopkins.
You know, I was going to say, the last bare knuckles prize fight in this country, John L. Sullivan versus Jake Kilrain, 111 years ago, it was 76 rounds of brutal, bloody action, and this was one of the roughest fights since then, you know?
This is the roughest middleweight fight that I have ever saw. And I thought that Marvin Hagler's fight with Ron Rodin, and even Thomas Hearns' fight with Ron Rodin, but this is the roughest middleweight fight that I have ever saw.
Let's go into the ring to Larry Merchant.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Bernard, congratulations. You wanted to finish this one faster than the first one, and you did, but it was a really rough fight. Why?
Larry, thanks. I'd like to thank HBO, Kerry Davis, the new suits in town with Mr. Goldberg. I'd like to thank HBO and happy holiday, Kwanzaa, Christmas, and New Year's. It was a rough and tough fight. This guy here, Antonie Echols, is a legitimate number one contender. It's not like the bogus number one contenders in other ratings divisions, even though I think I shouldn't have been fighting him this soon. And we spoke about it a couple of days ago. But again, I like to show my superstar status. I like to set example for tomorrow. I know Don King is watching. I know Felix Trinidad is watching, staying up late. Sorry, guys, to keep y'all up, but I will be at the Mount Bay tomorrow. Hopefully, I can be doing a little interview with Larry Merchant and HBO because I want the winner at 54 and 60 or Roy Jones at 68.
All right, let's talk about tonight's fight first. Okay, early in the fight, he spun around and you hit him in the back of the head. You could have been penalized for that, right?
Yes, I mean, I could have been penalized for that. I mean, you know, this is a fight. I mean, it is boxing. But when you're fighting, if it was some sticks and stones and bottles like in the street of Philadelphia, I might have got disqualified for hitting him over here with one of them hard as he punched. But yeah, you know, I try to keep as clean as possible, Larry. And, you know, it's a fight. It's a fight in the boxing match, and that's the referee job to make some order in there.
All right, let's go to the 6th round, and you tell us what happened, how you felt when he picked you up as he did here in frustration and tossed you over.
Well, first I was surprised that he was that strong to pick me up. And second, I fell on my shoulder. And as one of the cameramen said, and I felt it, of course, something snapped like out of my joint. It wasn't broken anything, I don't think. I'm not a doctor, but I can't use it right now, and I can't lift it up past my head. But I was willing to do what Tyrone Biggs did 11 to 10 years ago when I seen him fight with one hand. That's the first thing that came to my mind, crazy as myself, say Tyrone Biggs fighting with one hand, and I said no. I mean, it's deja vu again. Every time I come to Vegas, it's never a finished fight.
All right, now you want to keep the fight. Are you afraid that somehow the officials are going to take this away from you if you don't continue on, if you don't fight them in the ring?
Yes, I mean, you know, a champion's supposed to win. They fight when they belt in the ring.
When you go back to our understanding is if you couldn't go on, that you would have won the fight because it was a deliberate foul and you were way ahead in the scoring anyway. Now, did your corner tell you that?
Yeah, he told me that, but I'm in Vegas. And things strange happen in Vegas, and I ain't want to take that chance, Larry. I want to finish because I'm a true champion, and I don't want no doubts tomorrow morning when I read the newspaper.
Okay.
I finished with one arm, Larry. I finished with one arm tonight. I finished this 12th defense, breaking Marvin Hagler's record, with one arm.
All right, now at the end of the fight, Echols is obviously hurt and a little dazed. He turns away from you and looks to the referee. The referee doesn't do anything. He's standing there wide open. You belt him.
Of course. I mean, I wish you'd have did that the first round. It would have been easier. Hey, look, take yourself at all times. And he's not going to disrespect me and look the other way. And I'm supposed to be a nice guy. This is a do-or-die situation. This is at war. And you either live or die in war. And I'm willing to live.
One last question.
Anytime.
Vargas or Trinidad?
Both. I don't care. Any one of them.
Who's going to win the fight?
I like Trinidad late, and I like Vargas early. But you know what, though, Larry? No matter what, none of them will fight me because, I don't know, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans are supposed to be proud people. I respect them. I got a lot of friends. But I want them to know that they heroes don't want to fight Bernard Hopkins. I'm 35 years old. I'll be 36 January 15th. And I'm just getting on Geritol, and I'm feeling pains. And they still won't fight me.
Thank you very much, Bernard.
Happy holidays.
Just as final thought, whoever the Grinches were who stole the middleweight division, this gentleman right here, Bernard Hopkins, has helped to find it again. And tomorrow night, we'll see some more middleweights, and you can make up your own mind who belongs on the top. But until somebody beats Bernard Hopkins in the ring one way or another, he is the best middleweight out here. Jim?
All right, thank you, Larry. And Emmanuel, put your manager's hat on for a second, because Hopkins' holiday order was not a la carte, but rather the buffet. He asked for Jones at 168. He asked for the winner of Trinidad Vargas at either 160 or 154. We know he'd also be interested in fighting the other middleweight titleists, William Joppy, Keith Holmes, to try to get some unification in that division. If you were his manager, which fight would you most want him to have?
I think the fight that would be the easiest fight, and the one that I would go after, would be Roy Jones. I think Roy is a big superstar. I think the fact that Roy still is not really a true light heavyweight, and Roy beat him, but he's improved so much since then, I think that would be a super fight, and it would be much easier to make, I think, than fighting Vargas or Trinidad.
You think he'd have a chance to beat Roy Jones at 168, huh?
I think he definitely would have a good shot at beating Roy, and also, you wouldn't have to go through all these problems with the promoters and the different networks. Roy is totally free. He's free. The fight that he made so easy, and it would be a great fight.
Because when Hopkins went to the promoter who promotes the other two middleweight champions, he was told that he would have to give him a 4-year option, or at least that's what he said, in order to get those fights. There aren't too many fighters who would give up something like that. It was fun to see Bernard Hopkins tonight. You'll probably see him again in the future in bigger and better fights than this. Meanwhile, our website poll question tonight was, who will win tomorrow night's championship battle between Felix Trinidad and Fernando Vargas? Here is how you voted. 58% of you across the country choosing Trinidad, 42% Vargas, not quite as close as Bush and Gore, but representative. Once again tonight, you saw in the 122-pound division a brilliant performance by Marco Antonio Barrera, who sent a message to Prince Nassim Hamed in anticipation of their March 3 showdown with an impeccable performance, power, and accuracy against Jesus Salud. And then Bernard Hopkins, in a rough, awkward, foul-filled fight, ultimately dominated Antonie Echols with better technique and ring savvy and produced a technical knockout for himself. And now for the entire HBO crew, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Las Vegas, Nevada. The executive producer of HBO Sports is Rick Bernstein. Tonight's edition of Boxing After Dark was produced by Kendall Reed and directed by Mark Payton. Associate Director Thomas